We are ready. We are live. Welcome, Governor.
Thank you. I would like to bring to order the December 14th meeting of the State Land Board. Consent agenda first, request for approval of the minutes of the October 12th meeting.
So moved.
All right, Secretary Fagan has moved approval of the minutes of the October 12th, 2021 State Land Board meeting. Treasurer Reed is a second. Hearing and seeing no objection, so approved. Action items. Director Walker, back to you.
Great, thank you, and welcome to other members of the Land Board. Today, agenda item 2 is whether the State Land Board should appoint Dr. Christine Moffett of Coos Bay to the Oregon Ocean Science Trust, and I believe Ms. Moffett is on our call today, and Ms. Laura Anderson is on the call. Laura is the OOS director. The authorities are set out below. The Oregon Ocean Science Trust was created by the legislature in 2013 with Senate Bill 737, and the duties of the trust are set out below. They're pretty impressive. The trust submits a report to the Legislative Assembly each even-numbered year, and the trust is comprised of 7 members, and the State Land Board has the honor of appointing 5 of those voting members. The President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House each appoint 1 non-voting member from each respective chamber. The detail about how those members are, the requirements for their service are listed below. And then the nomination of a voting member comes up because in 2021, 2 of our voting members resigned from the trust, Dr. Jim Sumich in April of this year, and Dr. Shelby Walker, no relation, in October of this year. Work to identify a suitable nominee for Dr. Walker's position is underway, but we are absolutely thrilled to identify a nominee for the position vacated by Dr. Sumich, and that is Dr. Christine Moffett of Coos Bay. Her curricula vitae is attached, and she is impressive. I don't know how she gets all these things done in her day. She is a retired marine and fisheries biologist. She has extensive experience in research, education, and outreach on aquatic and marine science. She is the current president of the Friends of South Slough, which is where I know her and interact with her the most. And she does a fabulous job. She's also a member of the Oregon Sea Grant Advisory Council, the Oregon Invasive Species Council. I don't know, I think we should add one more thing to our list, Oregon Ocean Science Trust. So Governor, I'll turn it back to you, and I see Ms. Moffett is on the screen. The department recommends the State Land Board appoint Dr. Christine Moffett to complete the vacated 4-year term on the Oregon Ocean Science Trust, effective immediately and ending December 31, 2022.
Thank you, Director Walker. Thank you, Dr. Moffett, for your willingness to volunteer. I just continue to be, frankly, blown away by the dedication and determination and skills and expertise that we have in terms of Oregonians across the state who are willing to serve on our boards and our commissions. Treasurer Reed, Secretary Fagan, any questions or comments?
Madam Chair, if it's appropriate, I would love to hear anything Dr. Moffett would like to offer, but I'm certainly ready to make a motion when you'd prefer that.
Secretary Fagan, any questions or concerns? Would you like to hear from Dr. Moffett as well?
Yes, if she has things to say, absolutely. But looking forward to seconding the motion.
All right, Dr. Moffett, why don't you go ahead and tell us why you would like to serve on the Oregon Ocean Science Trust and the amazing skills you bring to this role.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to see you all this morning. I am really blessed to be able to live in Coos Bay. This particular photo is, my backdrop is Bastendorf Beach, which is the greatest place to walk and enjoy the beauty of the ocean. There's not much more important to us in terms of our survival into the future is to take care of the ocean. It's 2/3 of the globe, and I just left a Sea Grant Advisory Board meeting this morning where we were learning about kelp forests and so forth. And so I'm just so proud that Oregon has stepped up and provided this opportunity to grant increased funding for the importance of research in dealing and mitigating with some of the great challenges. And I'm so proud that Governor Brown has really led the charge with global warming and response to this. So it is absolutely my indeed pleasure to try to do what I can to improve and help us secure a future for everyone.
You have a number of other boards and commissions that you're engaged with. Do you feel like you have adequate time to serve on this particular board?
Yes, I am a full-time volunteer, and every day is a gift for sure. And so I am quite willing, and I think there's enough overlap, particularly the Sea Grant connections and so forth are really important, as well as the South Slough. So I'm very comfortable with that, and will give it my best.
Dr. Moffat, on our applications for boards and commissions, we ask folks that are applying their sort of perspective on diversity, equity, and inclusion issues. And I'd be most interested to hear from you, your experiences, if any, in terms of working with the tribes, particularly the South Coast tribes.
Thank you for asking. I think I put a little bit into my application there, but I live in Empire, and I'm 1 block away from the Confederated Coos Tribe headquarters. Have had many interactions with their staff. Doc Slider's a friend of mine, and he has invited me to some of his flute events. I think I have spent a lot of time in education, educating tribal students and working heavily in that area. I'm quite aware of the deficiencies of the non-treaty tribes, even though they're recognized, they're so limited. And I really am pushing hard to think of ways, and I know with some of the new legislative initiatives federally, there may be some more options to regain that. I'm really looking forward to that opportunity to help move the needle, and am so proud to be in the Hannes Coos area and living on their land. So that's kind of where I'm at. Be glad to participate in any other conversations regarding that in the future.
Thank you. Treasurer Reed, Secretary Fagan, any other questions?
No, Madam Chair, I'm happy to make the motion. I guess
That'd be great.
The comment I would make in doing so is that this comes at a nice time, given that the legislature did actually appropriate some money for OOST work. Of course, we still need to cover the internal costs so that they don't come from the common school fund. But I think it's not as if I was not predisposed based on what I read in the paper, but the conversation that I just witnessed makes me more enthusiastic about Dr. Moffat. So I'm pleased to move that the board accept the staff recommendation and appoint Dr. Moffat to the OOST.
Thank you, Treasurer Reed. Secretary Fagan.
Second the motion. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Hearing and seeing no objection to the motion passes. Congratulations, Dr. Moffat. We're incredibly grateful for your service and your willingness to be a full-time volunteer. We appreciate you bringing your expertise and talents to the state. So, and I wish you the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. If we can move to agenda item 3, I'll do so at this time.
Please do so.
Okay, this is a request for approval of the Department of State Lands 2022 to 2026 strategic plan. We've been working on it diligently for quite some time now. And I'm going to turn the presentation over to Allie Ryan Hansen, our communications manager, who has put together a great slideshow that helps detail all of the fabulous things that our staff has been working on with our stakeholders. So, Ms. Hansen?
Thank you, Director Walker. Good morning, Governor Brown, Secretary Fagan, Treasurer Reed. For the record, I am Allie Ryan Hansen. My pronouns are she, her. I am DSL's communications manager and thrilled to be joining you today to present the agency's 2022-2026 strategic plan on behalf of Director Walker and really the entire DSL team. Developing this plan has truly been a team effort that took great collaboration over several years. Much of the work was in developing the plan. We identified items in the previous plan that we wanted to carry forward. Leadership brainstormed key pieces of that new plan. The management team developed a framework for our strategic goals. Staff team identified potential projects, and working groups formed to really refine each strategic goal. We then reviewed and further refined, first putting out a working draft for staff review and comment, and then circulating a public draft for partners, stakeholders, and the public to review. All of that led to the final draft before you for consideration today. I want to quickly note all that work also helped us identify what it was we were aiming for in developing a strategic plan. We wanted to set a foundation for the agency's work with our mission, our vision, and our values. We also wanted to find a way to have it be a practical plan that would let us continually improve our services in the day-to-day and leave space for listening and for learning. It was important to us to have flexibility so that as we engaged with partners, with stakeholders, with the public, as we began implementing the plan, we left a little space to evaluate and to do things differently if we needed to in order to meet our mission, in order to achieve our vision, in order to reach each of those plan goals. The plan identifies our mission, which is ensuring Oregon school land legacy and protecting waterways and wetlands of the state through superior stewardship and service. Our vision, we want to set a national standard for public agency stewardship. We want our lands, waterways, and wetlands to be healthy and resilient. We want the Common School Fund to forever benefit our public schools. We want to serve with professionalism, integrity, and fairness. And we want this to be a great place to work. We also set forth our values in this plan. These are values for connection and collaboration, developing those positive relationships with people of different and sometimes competing ideas, and encouraging the open exchange of information and ideas. We have a value for equity and inclusion, embracing diverse backgrounds and experience, actively identifying and addressing inequities toward people and lands, and engaging widely to provide inclusive public service and working environments. Our next value is for fair, responsive service. We are fair, professional, and responsive in our service. We listen to people and communities, and we make data-driven decisions. We want to encourage and enhance stewardship, continuously working to enhance our stewardship by assessing and adapting our efforts to improve outcomes. We also want to promote widespread stewardship through collaboration, outreach, and education. And finally, we want to have a workplace that's built on trust and teamwork, encouraging and motivating each other to accomplish agency goals through collaboration, cooperation, and professional development. We want to foster that high trust culture that supports a happy, healthy, inclusive, and meaningful working environment for all employees. So in addition to this foundation of mission, vision, and values, the plan also sets 4 goals that all agency programs contribute to achieving. In developing these goals, we examined how the agency and each DSL program serves Oregonians. We identified the common threads that every team contributes to in some way and created 4 goals. These goals are really where the work happens in the day-to-day, both in the projects that span years and represent major progress toward achieving our mission and vision, and in the things we do in our day-to-day work. I am going to walk you through each of these 4 goals, but they are exceptional service, thriving Oregon, supporting schools, and having a great workplace. A bit about the framework for each of these strategic goals. For each of these goal areas, we've identified the results that we want to see, stated in a clear way that Oregonians can connect with. So providing exceptional service means increasing access to information and services. Helping Oregon thrive means encouraging and supporting others in stewardship of lands, waters, and wetlands. Supporting schools means sending more money to the Common School Fund. For each of these results, we've identified how we're going to get there in 2 ways. One is the big picture strategies. So if we want to increase access, we need to make it easier for folks to get information and services online. We need to look at gaps in service we're providing. For each big picture strategy, we've also identified specific projects that we need to do to support that strategy and that result. These projects are wide ranging. Some, like developing an Elliott State Research Forest, cross multiple years. Some, like developing guidelines for increasing and encouraging public participation in DSL decision-making, we could knock out in a few months. But all of these projects meet a need in some way. We saw a gap in service. We saw a continuing project that we wanted to make sure we provide resources to, or we saw something that we want to explore potential for its ability to meet that result and that goal. This is really where we see the flexibility of this plan come to life. We know what results we want to achieve, and we've identified a broad path and specific steps for making progress. That lets us add projects to seize opportunities, revise progress to meet the changing needs of Oregonians, or otherwise just tweak to get things right. And how we'll know if we're getting it right is each of these strategic goals includes a measure of progress, something that will let us see, are we moving the needle against this goal? And it lets us adjust how we get there if we need to. If we're saying we're not moving the needle, we have flexibility to make changes in how we're getting there so that we are making progress in those measurable ways. Okay, I'm now going to walk you through each goal area. Before I do that, do you have any questions? Great. Okay, first up is the exceptional service goal. The results we're seeking with exceptional service are improved service, increased access, increased awareness and understanding, and supporting our staff and providing exceptional service. How we get there, these are the strategies under each goal. For improved service, we're providing equitable, fair, inclusive service. We're understanding and meeting customer needs. To increase access, we want to put more services and information online. We want to make sure our materials and our processes are really customer friendly, and we want to address information and service gaps. To increase understanding and awareness, we want to do purposeful planned communications and outreach, increase the effectiveness of our communications channels and our materials, and support collaboration and partnership in order to increase understanding and awareness. And supporting staff, this is where we offer trainings, service and communications on public participation, and where we create materials that are going to support staff in providing exceptional service. So a practical example of what this looks like, for example, under increasing access, the project that we've identified to put more information and services online is our new data management system, which is going to make it make folks easier to check on the status of their applications for permits. Going to make it easier for people to easily access data, going to make it easier for somebody who whose neighbor is doing something and they're concerned about impacts to a waterway or wetland, for them to go online and see what information is available about that project and how they can participate. That is an example of one project under the increased access result and the more information on services online strategy. So each of these strategies underneath the results has a handful of projects that have been identified that are going to help us in some way achieve that result and enact that strategy in the day-to-day.
Allie, this is Governor Brown. I just want to pop in here and say I appreciate you modeling inclusivity as well, because this is the first time I've seen the written word typing as you speak. And so for folks who are don't hear, it gives them an ability to understand and what is happening during this meeting. So I just want to say great job modeling inclusivity in action. So.
Governor Brown, thank you so much. I have to confess, I'm surprised that this is working. It's a little bit distracting to me watching it scroll across as I'm saying it, but it is a wonderful tool that Zoom provides, and I'm just thrilled that it's working.
We should be providing it all the time, honestly. I know the legislature uses Microsoft Teams. I suspect it has it as well, but this is something that would increase accessibility for Oregonians, and I think it's a great tool. So thank you.
My pleasure, Governor. Okay, so measuring progress in that exceptional service goal area. These are our metrics, how we're going to measure the success of those. Are we achieving our results? Are our strategies effective? Are the projects that we're doing in the day-to-day contributing to us making progress that we can show Oregonians this is how we're doing? So for exceptional service, we're looking to increase our website visitors, improve our customer satisfaction ratings, make sure 100% of agency programs have a communication and outreach plan in place. And then we also want to improve our ratings in our employee satisfaction survey for employee support questions, those questions that gauge do employees feel supported in delivering service to Oregon. The next goal is Thriving Oregon. This goal, the results we're seeking are enhanced lands and waters, widespread stewardship, and increasing opportunities for students and teachers. How we will get there and enhance lands and waters. We want to continually improve our programs and practices. We want to facilitate habitat restoration. We want to implement projects that promote resiliency in the face of climate change. We want to protect agency-managed lands and waters from the impacts of increasing or unauthorized uses. Under widespread stewardship, how we get there is informing best practices for natural resource management through research and training, and increasing awareness of the importance of value in wetlands and waterways and encouraging stewardship. For increasing opportunities for students and teachers, we want to contribute to K-12 learning outcomes. So real life example of what one of these projects looks like. So for increasing opportunities for students and teachers, a project example is the work that we're doing at South SLU to provide development opportunities for teachers, create in-class learning opportunities and activities, and hands-on field trips. So that's one example of where we will do a specific project that will contribute to that strategy that will result in increased opportunities for students and teachers. How we'll measure our progress for Thriving Oregon. Our metrics here are no net loss of wetlands from year to year, increasing the research, projects, and practices that promote climate change and wildfire resilience for agency-managed lands, waterways, and wetlands. We're increasing the people served annually at South SLU, and we want to increase the tools and best practices that are available for managing and restoring wetlands, waterways, and lands. Next up is the supporting schools goal. The result that we're looking for here is simply to increase net revenue to the common school fund. We want to implement fee structures that reduce our dependence on the fund, identify opportunities for additional assets and new revenue sources, improve the financial performance of forest properties, and review the impact of guiding program strategies on the common school fund. Real life example here, under the implement fee structures that reduce dependence strategy is that examination of the fee structures for all agency programs that we're planning to take on, to identify a sustainable structure for providing those services that reduces the impact on the common school fund. Measuring progress in this goal area. We are really looking to our key performance measures as our guide. We have existing metrics set that we want to improve annually, related to how much cash agency activities generate, increasing revenues generated by all land management activities, the percentage of South Slough Reserve operations that are funded from non-common school sources, and how much program revenue streams are used to cover operational costs and administrative costs for forest and non-forest lands alike. The final goal, great workplace. The results we're looking for here are encouraging engagement and growth, supporting work-life balance, and retaining and sharing acquired knowledge. Underneath encourage engagement and growth. Our pathway there includes encouraging and supporting staff development, expanding our engagement and external connections, and ensuring that we're equitable, fair, and inclusive in our practices. Supporting work-life balance, we're enhancing teleworking, as are many agencies. We are expanding opportunities for well-being, and we want to retain and share acquired knowledge by developing standards and processes and doing succession planning and training. Real life example for this goal, under encourage engagement and growth, one of the things we want to do to encourage and support staff development is implementing individual development plans as a tool for employee growth, and also provide comprehensive and regular information about training opportunities. Measuring progress for great workplace looks like improving or maintaining ratings for all questions with every employee satisfaction survey. We want to add some new questions related to work-life balance and improve or maintain those ratings. And by 2026, we also want to increase the percentage of team members who feel acquired knowledge is retained and accessible. Finally, the next steps here on implementing the plan. This strategic framework is really the first piece. We have two things that we want to do to actually begin implementing this plan in 2022. First is developing a strategic action plan. We will be sequencing all the strategic projects across all programs, allocating resources to the projects that we want to do first, and developing short and long-term timelines for getting all of those projects completed within the 5-year period that the plan covers. Each plan that is identified as a near-term priority is going to have an individual project plan developed. We'll define the scope, approach, outcomes, resources, stakeholders, et cetera. That will really be our day-to-day roadmap for getting those things done. This concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. Secretary Fagan, any questions or comments? Treasurer Reed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess I want to recognize that this obviously took a lot of work. I'm looking forward to some more discussion over time about the specifics. and sort of the trade-offs that probably went into consideration as you developed this. As it's probably appropriate to ask this question, make this comment on this slide, because the strategic action plan obviously is a next step in terms of implementation. But I've said I'm left with an appetite for some more of those specifics. The notion of increasing things, or there were definitely some examples of specific numbers, but I have a desire for some more specifics going forward, and I think I'd be reassured by some sense of how you plan to take that on.
Yeah, Governor Brown, Treasurer Reed, that's a very good point. And I know that one of the things we're planning to do is provide regular updates to the board on progress. So reporting back both on the metrics for each of the strategic goals, how we're making progress against those, and also coming back to you with the in the moment, what we're implementing now, overview of what the strategic action plan looks like, what we're working on for the defined period of 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025, 2026, so that you have a really clear and connected picture of what projects are we doing, how are they moving the needle against those outcomes that we want to achieve.
Thank you. And Madam Chair, one more comment. This is where I'm going to sound a little impatient. I think I have heard versions of that before, especially when it comes to our dependence on Common School Fund. So I was a little disappointed to hear examination of that. For my taste, that's a little less, maybe a lot less urgency than I'd like to see.
Thank you, Treasurer Reed. Secretary Fagan, do we have a motion?
Yes, Madam Chair, I move that the Department of State Lands approves adoption of the 2022 to 2026 strategic plan.
Secretary Fagan has moved the approval of the Department of State Lands 2021-2026 strategic plan. Treasurer Reed, is there a second?
There is. I will second.
Yeah.
All right. Seeing a second and seeing no objection, the motion is approved.
Governor, I believe there was someone signed up to testify for this. It just occurred to me.
Okay.
Is Mr. Charles on the line? He's not? Okay. Mr. Charles submitted written testimony that you were all provided. So he is not appearing live today.
Okay. Thank you, Director Walker. Sorry, we kind of jumped the gun, so to speak. But I know that at least myself and the other land board members had an opportunity to read his testimony.
Thank you, Governor. And in response to Treasurer Reed, I would say that I plan to, as I do now, under the other category, I will be frequently updating you on how we are meeting our goals. And one of those is the project that we're working on now, which is examining our fee structure in our removal fill program and some of our other program areas. For instance, Treasurer Reed, you mentioned our staff support for the Oregon Ocean Science Trust. We are not compensated for that from the legislature's funding mechanism. And so we eat that cost through the Common School Fund. So those are things that we will be adding to our list of the projects that we're examining and what outcomes we can recommend to you to make them more sustainable. And so we'll make that a regular course of business, and hopefully that will help you understand where we're going with this really fabulous strategic plan that I really want to thank Ally for making it look pretty and putting all this time into it, and our staff. We started this process, Jean and Bill and I and our former HR director, way long before the pandemic hit, because we were over at the Reed Opera House for 2 days with consultants going through all of this, and that started our process. And then COVID came and things slowed down, as it did for much of the country and the state. And then we got back in gear again. And I have to say, the staff really came through and participated in individual subject matter expert meetings and really added to what we wanted to achieve. So I'm very proud of this agency, and I think we've got a good plan going forward. And thank you for your support. All right, we have 3 agenda items under other today, all a little bit different. Item number 1 I wanted to talk about is Krump Lake, and we're going to show a picture on the screen of these items. And this is Krump Lake. It is located, it's state-owned land, and it's located in Lake County, beautiful part of the state if you haven't been there. We decided on November 19th to close access to the public access to the lake because the lake bed had gone dry, which it sometimes does. And there were folks that were removing, damaging, or destroying cultural, environmental, and state resources. And we received reports from the Oregon State Police and some very compelling reports from the Burns Paiute tribe. Protected artifacts and funerary objects, as you know, are to be protected, but they've been looted. Grooves have been cut into the lake bed with people pulling tires behind vehicles and doing 360s in the lake bed. Fences and gates have been damaged. And as a steward and manager of Oregon state-owned lands, this department is committed to protecting the health of our land and the cultural resources that provide meaning and connection for groups that have called these areas home since time immemorial. The emergency closure provides essential but temporary relief from these destructive activities. The waters of Krump Lake periodically fill and recede, and in past years we have seen similar looting occur when the lake dries during drought, and we have implemented emergency closures at those times as well. There is a need for a long-term solution. We understand that. We need to protect our cultural resources and prevent these impacts to state lands. And while the emergency closure is in effect, we will begin working with the public, tribes, and other stakeholders to look at options for a lasting fix. I can tell you that when I first was appointed director, I did make a trip down there and had a town hall meeting in the community of Adele. And a lot of the neighbors and community members like to recreate on the lake bed. But they understand that we have a problem with people who don't live there, who come and do these kinds of things. So we need to find some way to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to recreate, but that we protect these objects and these state-owned lands. One option that we might do is to engage in permanent rulemaking that establishes a threshold to trigger automatic closure when the water level gets to a certain level. We look forward to beginning this collaborative work and reporting our progress back to the land board, because this kind of behavior is absolutely unacceptable. And I'm sure the land board agrees with that assessment.
Director Walker, the folks that contacted DSL, I assume, have been in contact with law enforcement authorities as well.
They have, Governor, and we did get a very thorough report from the Oregon State Police, and they said it's just right now it's out of control at the time that they wrote to us. They've never seen it quite like this. So drought has really caused the lake bed to be very, very dry. And for some people, they think that they can do what they do inappropriately, and we're going to show them otherwise.
Thank you. Treasurer Reed.
Madam Chair, nothing to comment on here.
Secretary Fagan, any comments?
Just that I want to get out to Lake County and see. So thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. Thank you, Director Walker, for that update. I, for one, would support a move towards permanent rules that would allow the agency to close access as waters recede. I suspect, given the drought maps that I have seen, that this is going to continue to be a regular occurrence. So I would just put that out there. So
thank you, Governor. Appreciate that comment. I would like to, before I go on to item number 2, 2 more items. I understand Mr. Charles has joined online. Did you wish to hear from him regarding the strategic plan?
of course.
All right, Mr. Charles, we will unmute you. There you go.
Am I on now?
You are unmuted, Mr. Charles.
You're unmuted.
We already heard agenda item 2. You were not on the line when we did that, but the governor has agreed to allow you to testify. So, Mr. Charles, you may proceed.
Yes. Thank you, Director Walker. It was my mistake. I was using the YouTube link rather than the Zoom link. So the YouTube link wasn't working for me. My only comment, I did watch what you were doing. My only comment is, after 25 years of participating in these planning processes, generally speaking, when the dust settles, nothing changes. My suggestion to you, if you want to be strategic in this plan, is to focus on the one thing that matters, which is the continued losing of money on the real property portfolio. And there is an internal contradiction in part of what you're doing, where it says you want to improve the financial performance of forest properties. You use an example of the LA State Forest, but then in the metrics section, you say increased revenues generated by all land management activities, excluding timber harvest receipts. Well, that means you can't accomplish the goal. It's the opposite of strategic planning. So I think this is a binary thing here. You either just do what you've been doing for 25 years, in which case just you don't need the plan, or you decide today to send a different direction to the people who work for you, which is to come up with a plan to get net positive on the real property portfolio instead of continuing to lose money, not just on the Elliott, but on other parts of the portfolio, so you can carry out your fiduciary responsibilities to students. It's really simple, one or the other. And the DSL is not going to go in that direction unless the 3 people who run it, that is the land board members, say it's time to change. So I really believe if you want to be strategic, make a decision today or soon to actually make money on the portfolio on behalf of the beneficiaries. If not, just sell it off. Because we know the money in the common school fund, as in the PERS fund, that actually does benefit the beneficiaries. That's where the money is if you can't make it off of real property. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Charles. Appreciate your comments. I see the strategic plan is continuing to evolve, and so thought it was important that we hear from you. So Treasurer Reed, Secretary Fagan, any questions or comments for Mr. Charles?
No, thanks for your comments, Mr. Charles.
Governor, given that I made the motion, I will just say that I appreciate Mr. Charles joining us today. And obviously we encourage the public to participate and to speak up on the work that we do. But that being said, I don't agree with his assertions that this plan is insufficient. And I think the Department of State Lands has done a good job of wrapping their arms around the a really expansive mission of the agency, including balancing our fiduciary responsibilities and protection of public assets. So I believe this is well done. And I obviously had read his comments prior to making that motion, but appreciate anytime the public comes and speaks on our work, but want to say that I'm still very glad that I moved that motion. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Secretary Fagan. Thank you very much, Mr. Charles. Appreciate your time and energy. And again, we really appreciate your willingness to testify today. So thank you.
Thank you.
Director Walker, back to you.
Thank you, Governor. We'll move on to the second agenda item under other to talk about European green crabs. Leanne will post a picture of what they look like in just a moment. I'm pleased to share news out of the South Slough Reserve that Oregon's National Estuarine Research Reserve, which is highly rated, and we manage it in partnership with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And there is the picture of your green crab there. Please note that green crabs are not always green. They can be yellow or they can be orange. So they're telltale signs to know if you're really looking at a green crab there are 5 spines on either side of their shells, and there are 3 bumps between their beady little eyes. That is a green crab, and they're much smaller than an adult Dungeness crab. But as I go through my presentation today, they do eat one another. The green crabs will eat the baby Dungeness crabs, which is threatens the fishery, and then the Dungeness crab, when it gets a little bigger, eats the green crab. So we have a solution for all that I'll talk about. Researchers at the South Slough Reserve have been studying populations of invasive European green crabs in the Coos Bay estuary for the past 20 years. Green crabs, as I mentioned, destroy coastal habitat. They threaten native species, including Dungeness crabs, clams, oysters, and mussel populations, all fisheries that are important to Oregonians. Unfortunately, the reserve's latest research has found green crab populations around Coos Bay have steadily grown for the past 5 years. The numbers are reaching such a critical threshold, they could negatively impact coastal habitat and fisheries. However, we have found a silver lining. Our researchers are suggesting that by eating green crabs, Oregonians may be able to help reduce populations and environmental impacts. And on the screen there, you'll see the culinary guide for how to eat green crabs. And you'll also find that on the front page of our website under current events. I would caution Oregonians to remember that they do need a permit from ODFW to go crab fishing. So make sure you get that permit and observe other guidelines before you go hunting for green crab. In November, we released the annual green crab report and this culinary guide. The guide and the report got a lot of coverage by the media, including a national story that ran on NPR's Weekend Edition with Scott Simon on November 27. Our lead scientist on the project, Sean Schooler, has been doing an excellent job bringing this issue to everyone's awareness. And I found the interview with Scott to be quite entertaining at points because he asked Sean if he knew what they tasted like, and Sean had not yet eaten them. He later did, but Scott Simon said, by the way, I've got to tell you, if you tell me it tastes like chicken, I will ask to see your academic credentials, but go ahead. And Sean said, I don't think they taste like chicken, and they do not. They taste like crab. So if you haven't had a chance to view the report or see listen to the NPR story or any of the others, you may find those again under our website. I would like to say that while it might seem like a novel concept to Oregonians, coastal managers on the East Coast and in other parts of the world, like Venice, have been encouraging folks to eat green crabs as a form of population management for some time. And in fact, the culinary guide came out of New Hampshire. So we're very pleased to offer Oregonians some advice on how to help us with this green crab population. And I will challenge you all, and it will tell you how to fix those because they're very tiny, but the culinary guide is very descriptive. And if any of you wish to try it and let me know, I'd be happy to try that as well. Some people have put the green crab on pizza. Others have used them as a stock to make other fishing items of interest. So there you go, green crab. And I had in my drawer a beautiful card that shows a Dungeness crab. So that is the significant difference between the two species. So let's protect our Dungeness crab industry. Thank you. If you have no questions, I'm going to move on to item number 3, which is our Elliott State Forest update, and then that will close out today's meeting. I'm really pleased to bring you an update on our ongoing work in the Elliott. As you can see, the Elliott is forest for miles around, 83,000 acres of beautiful forest. Over the past year, despite a prolonged pandemic, our diverse group of stakeholders have remained at the table for a 3rd year in a row. One of the major accomplishments for this year has been the submittal of the proposed habitat conservation plan. After extensive and very collaborative work with key stakeholders who are vested in helping shape protections for murrelets, northern spotted owls, and salmon, the department submitted an administrative draft of the HCP Habitat Conservation Plan on Friday, October 8th. We believe the plan both satisfies the requirements of the Federal Endangered Species Act and supports the intended research and recreation we all want to see, while allowing harvest levels sufficient to support the forest going forward. We anticipate the federal agencies will initiate the required NEPA process next year, and we hope to have federal action on the proposal in early 2023. So we are meeting our timeline. This is really an exciting milestone. We're proud to have taken such a significant step toward one of the objectives you all set for us 3 years ago. In addition to these activities, OSU continues to work on a research platform that will ensure continued public recreation, tribal access, and the myriad educational opportunities for Oregonians of all ages. Those are things that are all important to you as well as Oregonians. Their current focus, there being Oregon State University, is with advisory committee members to develop a forest management plan to codify the specific management practices and protections for the forest as it's managed for research. The advisory committee will meet tomorrow virtually at 9 a.m. to discuss the latest updates, and those meetings are always open to the public. This plan is important because it will be the foundation for how the research forest will be operated consistently with the research proposal that you accepted last December and in compliance with the HCP terms and conditions. The department, the university, and the advisory committee have all been working to develop the outline of a legislative concept, which we will need to go before the legislature in February of next year to enable transformation of the Elliott into a world-renowned research forest. Work on this effort with the advisory committee is ongoing and evolving as the legislative session approaches. Ultimately, the legislation will seek to establish an independent public entity so that the state will retain ownership of the forest under the oversight of a board with the expertise and interest necessary for the Elliott Research Forest to function and thrive into the future. The legislation will also address decoupling the forest from the Common School Fund. On that note, I wanted to say that we are still continuing our discussions with potential funding partners. On December 1st, a small group of us met with Matt Strickler, Deputy Assistant Secretary for Fish and Wildlife and Parks at the Department of Interior, for the purpose of finding ways to access land water conservation funds, also known as LWCF, for the Elliott State Forest. Representatives of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service were also on the call, and one of those representatives characterized the Elliott State Research Forest project as, quote, an outstanding endeavor by the state of Oregon. That brought a big smile to my face. Your policy advisor and land board assistant, Jason Miner, was able to join us for a short time to convey your support for the project, Governor, and that was great. We left that meeting filled with enthusiasm for further discussions with Department of Interior, U.S. Department of Agriculture, and our federal delegation. And consistent with another directive given to us at the beginning of this process, significant attention is being paid to ensuring transparency and accountability safeguards for Oregonians, because they expect that in the management of the forest. There are several interested parties who will take part in a tour this Thursday of the soon to be shuttered Shutter Creek Correctional Institution in North Bend. I thought that was a great play on words. We are looking to see whether that facility would be an appropriate location for the Research Forest Project. It is a large property, but there may be potential to partner with other entities to effectively utilize the space, and we'll keep you posted on that conversation. And I have sent a letter to GSA letting them know of our interest, and they have sent me a letter back, and I need to send another letter out, which I will do after our meeting on Thursday. Lastly, near weekly discussions of the advisory committee working group related to developing the legislative concept have been open to the public. In addition, the department has conducted weekly public drop-in sessions for the public to ask questions and share thoughts on the legislative concept development. The department also held a public forum on the legislative work at the beginning of December to provide a more in-depth presentation and discussion opportunity. We are also keeping legislators informed about our overall Elliott Research Forest project, and all of you on the land board, and myself included, have been in the legislature, and we understand how important that is. During November legislative days, we provided an update to the House Interim Committee on Environment and Natural Resources, and Jason Miner joined us on that panel, as well as one of the members of our advisory committee. There are many more conversations with legislators, stakeholders, and the public ahead. We are not stopping or slowing down on that effort. We recognize the importance of broad support for this effort. And after 3 years of an incredible amount of work, of very high caliber, we are optimistic that a state-owned public research forest is truly taking shape and within our grasp. So I'm very excited. It's been exhausting work. It's been a little bit challenging when we had to switch to video, but we have persevered nonetheless. And I'm thrilled, and I just couldn't be more excited about the comments of U.S. Fish and Wildlife. So they are actively reviewing our administrative draft and providing feedback right now. And NOAA has a little bit of staffing issues that we're in conversations with them about, but we are fully expecting to see that NEPA process get started next year. So that is my report for you. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Great. Treasurer Reed, any questions or comments?
Yeah, some comments. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Director, for that really impressive update. I'm always struck when we talk about the Elliott about how many moving parts there are, and I can't really escape the memory of pre-COVID times when we were all sitting together and listening to the advisory committee, and the enthusiasm and momentum that was evident then. It seems that's only accelerating, and that gets me really excited as it does you. So I want to just be sure that I'm thanking you and the department as a whole, the university, the advisory committee, and all the people who've been active participants in this process, despite the twists and turns and the challenges of the pandemic and everything else. The momentum that you described on a lot of different fronts, including the Habitat Conservation Plan, the reactions from the Department of Interior, are all really encouraging. So I hope that's giving some additional urgency to the OSU work on the forest management plan, and I'm confident that my fellow land board members here will join me in asking you to keep us posted on how we can be active participants in the continued refinement and eventual passage of the legislation that we're going to need in February. The ultimate success of this, I think, is in sight, and I, for one, am really encouraged by what you're doing. So my enthusiastic thanks for everything that is to come.
Thank you, Treasurer Reed. Secretary Fagan, any comments? All right. Thanks, Director Walker. Really appreciate that update. I know that there's been a lot of engagement from the legislative level, which, given the speed at which February sessions move, is incredibly important. And I can't speak for my fellow land board members, but the extent that we need to engage and stay connected to legislators as we move this legislation through in February, I'm very committed to doing that. I think you know my desire to at least get this portion of it buttoned up. I'm not sure the Shutter Creek side can get buttoned up before I complete my term, but I'd certainly like to get the legislation through and that taken care of over the next 12 months. So, and I can't speak for the legislature, but I'm sure they don't want a special session on this particular issue. So it would be good to get it done in February, but they have gotten very good at special sessions. So
yes, they have. They have very good leadership at the top, Governor. Thank you. I want to, and we will keep you informed. We regularly speak with your land board assistants to let them know what we're doing. And Ryan Mann is working closely with Malia Masiba on my staff here on the legislative piece, and Jeff Huntington is working with us on the funding piece and a lot of the other moving parts. And Allie, sitting next to me, is doing all of the public relations, and Bill Ryan and Ryan Singleton. We just have a great group. Robert Underwood. And I want to specifically point out Matt DeVore because he's the silent one here. But whenever we need help with legal questions about, can we do it this way? Can we do it that way? Matt is there for us and has been extremely helpful in helping us when we made the switch from OSU potential ownership to the public entity ownership, because he had experience with that last session on the Cascade or the Willamette Locks. So I'm very grateful for the Department of Justice and Matt DeVore in particular. So I just wanted to call him out. Thank you.
Thank you. And I also want to echo your team, yourself leading the team have done really, frankly, a very excellent job under really challenging circumstances. And I really appreciate sort of the creativity, the innovation, the public engagement on these issues, and just want to say thank you. And as we head into the holiday season, I hope everybody has some opportunity after you get boosted to spend some time with family and friends and enjoy the fabulous outdoors that we have here in Oregon. But thank you, Director Walker. I think that concludes our agenda for the day. And with that, unless Treasurer Reed or Secretary Fagan wants to make any more comments, I'm seeing no's. Thank you all. Please enjoy the holiday season. Please stay safe and get vaccinated if you haven't gotten vaccinated, and get boosted if you haven't, because
And Governor, I
Omicron
will
is here.
mention that you can get a booster and you can get vaccinated anywhere in the country, because I was in Virginia for a month helping my daughter and I got my booster there. And I actually got my first vaccinations there. So if you're traveling to be with family, you can get a booster anywhere you go.
So Omicron is here, as we know, so please get boosted. That will help. And please stay safe and have a lovely holiday season, everyone. Thank you. And with that,
Thank you,
we're
Governor.
adjourned.
Bye, members.